Alrighty, yo, what is going on, everybody? It's your boy, Mr. DDG94 here, back with another reaction video. Don't mind the hat, ain't nothing wrong. Ain't nothing wrong. I'm just trying to be different today. I'm looking at all these videos. I really want to get my hair cut, but I can't because motherfuckers want to charge $50 to $60 for haircuts now. So I'm gonna learn how to cut my own hair and fuck myself up in the process. I'm gonna just let my shit just grow out and look like a fucking hobo for the rest of my life because these barbers done lost their rabbit ass mind charging $50 to $60 for a goddamn haircut. I could do my own beard though. I could do my own beard, no problem. Just hair, I'm scared. I don't want to fuck my shit up, and then I fuck my lining up and shit like that. I don't know. But yeah. Anyways, though, The Chronic 2001, the story behind a classic. This is Clout Cancun. Great music channel. We gonna go back to the ranking of albums. We gonna go back to Culturalist Theory, but for right now, I wanna expand my horizons and get into more deep dive type of videos. And this is a good deep dive video right here. So we're gonna watch why The Chronic was a classic. Without further ado, let's get right into it.
It's about time I do something about the West Coast. People have been hitting me up for a while to show some love to the West, and I thought, why not release a special video for my supporters on this very day? Wink, wink, like perfect timing. And I've had this thought to do this for a little minute. I didn't really want to do a video on the original Chronic because there's already like a lot of stuff out there already about it, and I do like that album, but I also really like 2001 just as much, if I'm being honest with myself. But before I get more into the video, I would first like to thank you guys for coming to see this, because you guys can be doing a million other things right now, but instead you're here with me, and I appreciate that. If you guys like the content, you guys should like, comment, and subscribe to help the channel grow. Also, follow my Instagram too. That would be greatly appreciated. Comment down below your favorite song from the 2001 album. Comment down below your favorite verse, lyric, etc. Give me your top 5 favorite songs from the project as well. How did this album impact you, and what was it like in your life when this album dropped? Let me know in the comment section below. Also, let me know where you are tuning in from as well. Represent where you're from, especially if you're from that west side. My personal top 5 from the album though is F.U., Explosive, The Next Episode, The Message, and Still Dre. Alright, without further ado, let's get into the video.
That's a good one. I just want to
set the stage of this album, we have to look at the position Dr. Dre was in beforehand. Of course, we know that Dr. Dre would release The Chronic while he was on death row in December of 1992. This album would end up peaking at number 3 on the Billboard 200 and has went on to be multi-platinum and a huge kickstart for Dr. Dre's solo career. On top of this, The Chronic has been regarded as one of the best rap albums of all time. So all of this was very hard to top. But by 1996, Dr. Dre would leave death row and would soon start a record label that we know now today as Aftermath. And he would actually release a compilation album, which is Dr. Dre Presents The Aftermath, in November of 1996. And that ended up peaking at number 6 on the Billboard 200.
That was not a good album. He don't even talk about that album. I don't even think that album was on streaming sites. That's how bad it was.
Chris Taylor, who has production credits on the album and has done work with Dr. Dre, has said that people were upset because they wanted a Dr. Dre album and weren't looking for a compilation album. He also thought that the single Been There Done That was cool, but it was taking away from the gangster style that people wanted. Here's what Dre had to say about that time period. That point of my life musically, it was just off balance. I was off track then and trying to find it. It was a period of doubt. It happens with artists. Everything isn't going to be out of the park. But I was trying to find it, and fortunately, Eminem came along. Dre was dealing with a lot of stuff around this time because after the falling out with Death Row, Dre kind of faded away from everything for a little minute. After the compilation record, Dr. Dre was approached by Steve Stout and Nas to collaborate and help them with production on the Firm album that eventually released in October of 1997. After the Firm album, Dr. Dre was hearing talks that he fell off and that he had lost his touch. This inspired Dr. Dre to go back into the studio where he called up people like Snoop Dogg and Corrupt to work. Dr. Dre would address how he was feeling at this time period on the 2001 album, specifically on the track Still Dre, but there was huge doubt on Dre after the Aftermath compilation album and the Firm album. But in 1997, when the Firm album was released, it wouldn't be all bad for Dr. Dre. This would be the year that Dre met Eminem. According to Dre, Eminem came halfway through the making of the 2001 album. Dr. Dre discovered Eminem via Jimmy Iovine because an intern at Interscope Records saw Eminem at the Rap Olympics in 1997 and was intrigued. Here's what Jimmy said about the situation. I heard something in the kid who gave it to me. He was 19, an intern. He said, I heard a tape on the street at this rapathon. I said, tell you what, people helped me a lot when I was your age. I'm going to do something for you. Bring me the CD and I'll play it to Dre. I trust you enough. It was a combination of the kid and what I heard. And it all came together, but that's producing. I put him with Dre. I listened to music in the gym. Dre came by. I said, before you leave, take this. It's a white rapper who sounds like his pants are on fire. He's one pissed off white guy. He says, okay, I'll check it out. Dre says about 6 words a day. He calls me when he gets home, had this kid out here on Monday. It's a true story that Eminem recorded 3 songs in one day the first time he met Dre. But we would see Eminem release the second studio album under Aftermath with the Slim Shady LP, which released in February of 1999. The album wasn't without its controversies, but despite that, this album got a better reception comparatively to the Firm album was, as far as Dr. Dre's involvement in these respective albums. The Slim Shady LP peaked at number 2 on the Billboard 200, selling 283,000 copies in its first week. The record grew in popularity as it remained on the Billboard 200 for over 100 weeks, and the album has went on to be 5 times platinum. Some of the other things I want to talk about is how it's rumored that the original successor to The Chronic was supposed to be titled The Chronic 2: A New Odor. Papa's Got a Brand New Funk. It was allegedly supposed to be released sometime around 1995. Some information about this album is that it was being teased around when Dr. Dre and Ice Cube were working on an album that was supposed to be named Helter Skelter, but that project also never saw the light of day. The song California Love is synonymous with Tupac due to his performance on the song, but legend has it that the song was a remix to a track Dre had previously been working on for this follow-up to The Chronic. California Love was rumored to be Dre's next solo single after the song Keep Their Heads Ringing. There's also a version you can look up online of California Love without Tupac, so go look that up if you're interested. But songs like My Life, Smoking Weed for Hours, California Love, Blunt Time, All of the BS We've Been Through, and more are rumored to be some songs that might have appeared on this album. Dre would leave Death Row and go on and start Aftermath, so a lot of these songs are probably still out there sitting around somewhere, which as a fan is pretty annoying because I would love to hear them someday. Another thing I want to talk about is the issue behind the name of the 2001 album. When Dre started Aftermath and was starting to work on this album, it's been said that the album was supposed to be called either The Chronic 2000 or The Chronic 2001. I've seen both, but Death Row Records will release Suge Knight Represents Chronic 2000, Still Smoking in May of 1999. There was a huge mess surrounding the name of this album, which involved lawsuits, change of hearts, and a bunch of other stuff. But long story short, Dre would ultimately change his album to simply just be named 2001, and the album was released in November of 1999. Changing the name to 2001 was actually Jimmy Iovine's idea. There's a whole article on Rolling Stone called Dr. Dre's War on Chronic, which breaks down the lawsuit, and I'll put that in the description if you want to know further information on that. But the 2001 album peaked at number 2 on the Billboard 200 with first week sales of 516,000 copies. This album is now over 6 times platinum. On this album, we saw Dr. Dre respond to his critics at the time, and he also wanted to reinvent himself and create a new sound. Here's what he said about that. Well, I definitely wanted a different sound. I wanted people to feel the same vibe they did when they heard the first one, but with some 2001 futuristic stuff going on. I got the drums much cleaner on this one, and the way I have everything panning and the sounds coming out is cool. I think I'm on with this one. Another thing to note is that Dr. Dre didn't even want to appear on the Chronic albums and just wanted to produce and find artists to produce for. The DOC talked Dr. Dre into getting on the mic and doing his thing. This will complete the backstory portion and first half of the video where I discuss the backstory of the album, and now in the second half we will break down the album in its entirety track by track while telling additional stories. The first track is Lolo Intro. Nothing much here, just a quick skit that has Corrupt, Trey D, and Exhibit talking about a Lolo, which is slang for a lowrider car. The person in the lowrider ends up being Dr. Dre, and Corrupt then asks Dr. Dre, what's up? And then it transitions into the second track on the album, which is The Watcher. In this track, Dre talks about the state of the rap game, and he talks about how he's seen people come and go in the rap game with the triumphant rises and the hard downfalls when rappers lose money via lawsuits, friends becoming enemies, etc. Dre has been through it all. The hook of the song talks about how everywhere he goes, it just ain't the same as before with the people he used to know because they just don't know him no more. Everywhere he goes, he has people he knows, but they got people that they know, so it's suggested that he lays low. Dre then talks about how he moved out of the hood for good in the second verse. He talks about how people aim at people they can't be, but how dudes can't hit what they can't see. The rest of the verse, Dre raps about the question of what would you do if somebody wanted you killed, and what would you do? In the last verse, Dre raps about the police and some of the things that they do to people. The song ends off with the phrase "the watcher," which means that Dre might not be out in the public eye like that anymore and is more in the background, but he's still watching and is aware of what's going on. Some other things about this track are the rumors about who wrote Dr. Dre's verse. The 3 names that I've heard are Jay-Z, Nas, and Eminem. I've seen people provide cases why it's one of the 3, but I ran into a post on Reddit with someone breaking down why they think that it's Eminem. I'll put it up for a little minute so you guys can read it, or even pause the video or read it in its entirety, but there's some pretty good points, and we do know Jay wrote Still Dre, and Eminem wrote Forgot About Dre, and also something else to note is that Dre normally credits whoever wrote the song in the credits for the song, so normally they're not ghosts, like they are credited, and you can definitely see that. But the next track is FU, and the title says a lot about what the track is about. Devin the Dude and Snoop Dogg are on the track, and they are saying that they just want to beat it without kissing and hugging because the girl has a husband. A rapper by the name of Hitman, who was signed to Aftermath at the time, I believe, penned Dre's verse in the song, and this is what he had to say about it. With that one, it's funny, and this is how Dre works. He doesn't write rhymes, but he has insight. He'll sit with you and tell you. He might throw out a bar, then you start writing and he'll veto it. He would yay or nay it until the verse was to his liking, and that's how FU was written. He was like, "Hit, this gotta come in and effing kill." I followed a pattern, and once he heard, "I just want to F bad girls," next came "All the nights I never had girls," And he was just like, yeah, keep going. I wrote that in like 15 minutes, and what's crazy about it, he memorized it there and spit it. He didn't even take the paper with him. The next song is Still Dre, and it was the first single on the album. Something that really surprised me was that this song initially peaked at number 93 on the Billboard Hot 100. This song, as of now, is insanely popular, with it reaching over 1 billion views on YouTube. And after this year's Super Bowl halftime show, the song re-entered the Billboard Hot 100 charts over 20 years later.
Damn.
It peaked at number 23 on the Billboard Hot 100 charts. Insane.
That's how
But
good
the
this
story
song
goes
is.
that Eve was signed to Dre at the time because this was before her stint with Rough Riders, and she knew Scott Storch from back in the day. They saw each other, and she felt like Scott was really cool to her, and she wanted to take him to meet Dr. Dre. The problem is that Scott didn't have any music with him, so he didn't know what he was going to play for Dr. Dre. Dre would say that he heard that Scott Storch could play the keys really good, and after that, Scott had waited 2 hours in a lobby being nervous before meeting Dre. Scott said that Dre literally changed his life that day. While Scott sat there at the piano, Dre said that he wanted him to stay in Cali because he knew Scott was about to go back to Philly. Dre gave him some money, put him up in a hotel, and the next day, they started working on Eminem's album. The day after that, they produced the track Big Egos that would appear on 2001. Still Dre came later while they were just in the studio just throwing ideas against the wall, and Dre had this drum pattern that he programmed left on play on the MPC. He just let it loop and he would let people jam out and see if anything came from it. Dre would be in earshot of the studio because he was eating in the kitchen area while Scott started playing the iconic piano melody of the song. Here's what Scott further commented. And he opened the door and he's like, that's it right there. That's it. His ears are so dope. Dre was like, this is it. This is a single. And he was so excited that he ran back in and we effing recorded it and we started layering it together and just boom. To me, that's one of the most interesting things about the song is that a West Coast anthem was written by an East Coast artist. This is why Jay had to make changes to the song because according to Dre, Jay-Z was initially rapping about diamonds and Bentleys on the track, so Dre told him to redo it. Jay-Z sat for 20 minutes and came back with some LA stuff. Jay even wrote Snoop Dogg's part, and Snoop is quoted as saying, he wrote all of it. It's about who can project the best song for the artist at that time. And any time we worked on a project, for example, like you brought up the Jay-Z situation, and we was trying to write Still Dre, we all took a shot at it, but we all couldn't come up with nothing as dope as Jay-Z. So we had to take a back seat and say, okay, his stuff is doper than everybody else's stuff that wrote something, so he's the winner. We gotta do what he say, and at the same time, he wrote it in the same vein as if we wrote it, because he understood what he was writing for. He took and embodied, you know what I'm saying? The whole situation as far as writing for Dr. Dre, so we couldn't do nothing but, take a back seat and acknowledge that, and say, you know what, you's a bad an effort. We didn't dispute that. Even with Eminem, when the white boy was writing, he was coming with that stuff. Dudes were like, man, we can't F with that. The song is about how Dre is still Dre after all these years. Dre references a lot of stuff from his past, like Dre Day, the World Class Wrecking Crew, The Chronic, etc. I saw on Genius that I guess Hitman, allegedly, keyword allegedly, because I never saw this, but allegedly, Hitman did an interview expressing disappointment that an East Coast rapper penned this West Coast anthem, and also allegedly heard that Jay was paid about $100,000 to write it. Once again, allegedly for all of this stuff. I couldn't access the link to this interview that this stuff was allegedly said, but this isn't completely confirmed, but I wanted to mention it in case people brought it up in the comments. But the 5th track on the album is called Big Egos, and this is exactly what the song is about being rich and having a big ego. Dre's verse on the song was written by the DOC, and he's credited on the song. The next song is Explosive, and this is hands down my favorite song on the album without a doubt. The original title of the song was called The Way I Be Pimpin', which featured Royce da 5'9" on the chorus and Dre rapping the verses. Royce wrote The Way I Be Pimpin' for Dre, and one day Eminem, Dre, and Royce were in the studio going through beats, and this is when Royce picked out the beat for the song The Throne Is Mine, and he wrote both songs the same day. Here's a clip of The Throne Is Mine song, in which Royce originally wrote for Dre and was cut from the 2001 album.
I can't cater to y'all, cause I'm greater than y'all, baby. I'm like an alien invader to y'all. Cruise, I improve to all of yous, I'm thorough now. What? I used to run an island, I want the world now. Dre running for king, street politician. Beats, one of the things, peep y'all to listen. Peep how I did it, I took the rap game. Fans came and I established the campaign.
A funny side note about Royce is that he had a meeting with Tommy Boy Records before he worked with Eminem and Dre, and they passed on him even though they said that they liked the music. Then they found out that Royce was around Dre and Eminem. After that, Royce went back and had another meeting with them and played the same exact demo and got a deal. Like, you cannot make this stuff. He didn't have one new song. It was the same exact thing, which is super funny. But here's what Royce had to say about Explosive. I didn't even ask why The Way I Be Pimpin' didn't make the final cut, because Explosive is a way better song. Once I heard it, I was like, okay, yeah, they did that. I never asked no questions. That's how the recording process goes. Sometimes things get rewritten. I know I do it all the time. Dre always has a vision. He knows how to make albums. I trust his judgment 100%. When I heard it was a whole new song, I was like, I'm pretty sure it's something better. Whatever he decided to change it to was better than what I did, and it was. I just really love this song, man, because everybody killed it, and Nate Dogg's part is just phenomenal, man. Like, I always rewind his part, man. Big RP to Nate Dogg. But the next song is What's the Difference? And this song is about how the people on the song are different than other rappers. This song has Dre, Exhibit, and Eminem, but there's an unreleased version with Hitman out there too. Definitely go check that out. This leads us into the Bar 1 skit with Miss Rock, Tracy Nelson, and Eddie Griffin, which is basically Eddie being a rude bartender while the girls spot some guys that are looking at them, and right as they come over, it transitions into the ninth song, Lightspeed. That song starts off with Dre asking the girl if they want to smoke some chronic, and it goes into his verse in which Hitman wrote. This is what Hitman had to say. Still DRE was the absolute last song done for the 2001 album, recorded in June of 1999. Lightspeed was, however, written by me and recorded in February of 1999. Now, with the facts being stated, one can assume that Jay-Z caught a vibe off of the opening lines of Dre's verse and expanded on it for the lead of the single for the album. The 10th track on the album is Forgot About Dre and was the second single for the album, which peaked at number 25 on the Billboard Hot 100 and ended up winning a Grammy. The song is really about the first part of this video and the backstory of this album, with people, just like the title of the song, forgetting about Dre. The song is basically about the little period of time I went through in between records and what people out in the street were saying about me. About, you know, how I fell off and how I couldn't do it anymore and all this nonsense. So this is just a response to that. That's all it is, period. It was Eminem that wrote almost all of the lyrics, including the majority of Dre's verses. It was actually one of the few times where the lyrics were written before the track. Eminem came in and said that he had a song that he had wrote for Dre. There was a problem with them trying to figure out what the track was going to be to the lyrics, but they made it happen. The reason why I think that this is so is because Eminem originally wrote the lyrics to this song to the Jigga What Jigga Who beat by Jay-Z. The next song is The Next Episode, and it has appearances from Dre, Snoop, Nate Dogg, and Kurupt. Something that I didn't catch is that the title of this song is in reference to the line Just Chill to The Next Episode on the song Nothing But a G Thing off of The Chronic, which had Snoop and Dre on it, making this song a sequel. The next episode will be the third single from the album, and it will peak at number 23 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart. There was a previous Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre collaboration that was entitled The Next Episode, and it was intended to be included on Snoop Dogg's debut album, Doggy Style, but it was removed due to an uncleared sample. The beat for that version was later used on Warren G's song Running With No Breaks, and the rapper Crooked I would later use it for the song Real Thugs. The 1993 version of The Next Episode was included on track lists sent to retailers in preparation for Doggy Style, but was never approved for later inclusion on the album like other cut tracks. I didn't know that there was a big search for the high quality version of the original version of The Next Episode from 1993. I did manage to find a semi-high quality band reconstruction of the song from 2018 by a person named King Zero Elizabeth on YouTube. Here's a clip of it.
Now G, not BG, but OG. What about the one that feels this free? I ain't got time to be focused for a hoe, even if she giving up dough. Yo, oh, no, baby, you love it so out of reach. You must have forgot that I was born and raised in Long Beach. What the hell come a dime a dozen?
Hold up. You mean to tell me this was supposed to be the follow-up to Ain't Nothing But a G Thing? This shit sound fire, bro. Why they never released this? This shit sound like the one, bro. Don't get me wrong. The next episode we got on Chronic 2001, most definitely that's a hit. That's a banger. I love that song. But this right here sound like them in their heyday though.
Get my straight up, I'm still coming up, cause I have to wait until they home and throwing a pussy together, nigga like me. I'm taking a break and stuff,
that shit sounded fire.
I also cannot end off talking about this song without talking about Nate Dogg's part. His part in the song has cemented its place in meme culture with the smoke weed everyday line. I swear. Every time I listen to this song, I can never time when exactly he says smoke weed every day. And it like annoys me. That's right. Every time I listen to this song, I can never.
I'll be ready for the next episode. Hey,
Let's Get High. And it has Hitman, Dre, Corrupt, and Miss Rock on it. And I
smoke weed every day.
Miss Rock, right? Hope it's Miss Rock. But this track also has credits towards Eminem as well. Some backstory behind this track is that Hitman's verse on the song came to be because he had written a different verse to it at first. This verse garnered a lukewarm response, and even Eminem told him that he should come with something else. This got Hitman mad because he was trying to figure out what to say. He started thinking about parts of Corrupt's verse on his song Housewife, so Hitman thought to play off some of the lines from Corrupt's verse in that song. Everyone involved on that song thought that that was it, and later Dre told Hitman that he was testing him out to see if he would snap back, and fortunately for Hitman, he passed the test. Then we'll get into the 13th track on the album, and y'all know that I don't be cursing like that, so we'll go with the name BN, and this has Snoop Dogg, Hitman, and 6ix9ine. There's not much history or info I can find about this track, and the meaning of this song is within the title, and the people in the song talking about why they don't like BNs. We'll skip to the 14th track, which is a skit entitled The Car Bomb. I don't know if the beginning of the skit is in reference to an Ice Cube skit off of his album, America's Most Wanted, in which the skit is called The Drive-By. At the beginning of the Ice Cube skit, The Drive-By, it has an intro of a man saying, "And now, The Drive-By," followed by a skit similarly to this track, The Car Bomb, where a man says, "And now the car bomb." The car bomb skit is just a short dialogue between two people that ends in a murder via an explosion from a car bomb, hence the title. This fades into the next track, which is Murder Inc. and features Hitman and Miss Rock. I find this track very interesting because it samples or clearly remixes the famous Halloween theme. This really matches the vibe of the track because it's a lot darker than the other songs on the album. We can go to the next track, which is Education, and this is my favorite skit on the album with the hilarious Eddie Griffin, where he explains what happens when women are desperate on keeping a man, and it's hilarious. Eddie had me rolling in that skit. Eddie Griffin has talked about how he appeared on the skits for this album, and it was Dr. Dre's birthday the day before this skit was recorded. Eddie was doing what he was doing really well, and that's just be funny, and he was cracking jokes, and Dre told him to come to the studio the next day. Eddie is with Dr. Dre in the studio, and an hour goes by, and Dre hasn't asked Eddie to step in the booth yet. And Eddie said that he had stuff to do, and people kept giving Eddie drinks to, I guess, calm him down, until finally Dre put Eddie into the booth. Eddie has talked about how he thinks that Dre did this on purpose, and this is when he realized Dre was a true producer. Dre was trying to get Eddie to how he was the day before when he was drinking and telling jokes. In the studio, the more mad Eddie got was the more drinks that the people around Dre were giving Eddie, and then when Eddie went into the booth, he let out about 35 minutes of material, and Dre kept the part that we have today, which makes up Education. The next track is entitled Some LA Dudes and features Hitman, Defari, Exhibit, Nocturnal, Time Bomb, King T, MC Ren, and Cocaine. I've seen places that this is the first track that MC Ren and Dre appeared on together after the split of NWA, but I personally don't know that for sure. I just wanted to mention that. But someone can fact check that if they want. But yeah, this song is West Coast, and what can I say? Everybody comes in on the track and represents. After this, we got another skit, which is Pause for Porno, and Dr. Dre got Jake Steve to be in this skit, who I guess was a dope performer, I would say, back in the day. I don't want to get into the specifics, especially with this skit, so we'll move on. The 19th track on the album is Housewife, and this track features Kurupt and Hitman. Something I didn't know is that Kurupt and Dre both released albums on the same day in 1999. Dre released 2001, and Kurupt would release The Streets Is a Mother on November 16th of 1999. Both albums have the song Housewife on them. Kurupt explains the story about how the track came to be via a verified annotation on Genius. Go check that out if you want to know more information, because I would put the video in this one, but the quality isn't the best. Also, Dre's verse was written by the DOC. For the 20th track, Act Right, there's not a lot of history behind it. It just showcases Hitman, and I know some people might wonder why he's all over the album, but as I said earlier, he was under Dre at this time, and if you think about it, he's really what Snoop Dogg was to The Chronic in the sense of appearing on majority of the songs on that album, because Hitman appears on majority of the songs on 2001. Obviously, Hitman is no Snoop Dogg, and that's all respect to him, but the next track is Bang Bang, and it features Nocturnal and Hitman, with credits to Eminem as well. This track is about how things are getting worse in the community when it comes to violence. People shoot without looking, attitudes are twice as worse, it takes your life half the time to be reversed, gangsters is banging 10 times harder now, etc. The 22nd track is The Message, and this features Mary J. Blige and Rel. Dre made this song as a message to both God and his late brother Tyree, who passed away previous to this song, and his passing will be devastating to Dre and it really affected him. Dre's verses were actually written by Royce da 5'9", and here's what Royce had to say about the track. I wrote the verses, but I didn't even know about how Dr. Dre's brother was killed. I was rapping about an experience that I had. I just felt like, okay, maybe it would be dope if Dre can paint a picture that people can relate to. I wrote the song, and when I went in the booth and laid it, Dre was quiet. And I remember thinking to myself, dang, why is he so quiet? That's when the whole thing about his brother came up. It was just God's work. That was the only thing that I did for him that felt like something. You cut random joints when you're doing an album, like the way I Be Pimpin' in the Throne Is Mine, you don't know what's going to make it. But that song just felt like something that needed to be on there. It fell into place. He didn't sit me down or say, yo, I want to rap about my brother. It just happened. Everything he said on that song was about what he went through. Rel originally referenced the track, and Royce didn't know Dre was going to put Mary J. Blige on there. Royce heard it right before the album came out. West believes Dre actually upped the ante by getting Mary on the song because she did go in there and kill it. The outro of the album is a skit from Tommy Chong asking if Dre is a real doctor and if he could prescribe some drugs for him. It ends up with a callback from Tommy about the chronic, and then the album ends. This pretty much wraps up the video though. I took you guys through the history behind the album itself and the history behind the songs on the album. This album is without a doubt a classic and left a big impact. I know some people might comment about the Up in Smoke tour and stuff like that, but that was after the album dropped, and I don't really cover stuff that like happened after the album. But in this case, we talking about the Up in Smoke tour. Like that is a whole story, whole other day. I think there's even like a DVD or something out, like about the whole Up in Smoke tour. So yeah, I don't know. I don't want to get into all that. But all in all, let me know what you thought of the video in the comment section below. I love you guys with all my heart. Peace.
Alrighty. Yeah, man. That's a lot of shit about this goddamn album, man. It's a lot of shit. Some stuff I did know. Like Jay-Z writing the verse for Still Dre. I knew about that. But I didn't know a lot of this other stuff. Wow. There was a lot behind this the making of this album. But see, people don't make albums like this no more. People don't take the time out to be like, you know what? Let me find the right instruments. Well, you got Kanye, Tyler. They take their time with their albums, and we appreciate it. Kendrick too. Pretty sure J. Cole does the same routine. But yeah, other than that though, man, this was a wow. There was a lot of manpower put behind this album, and that's why it turned out so good. So yeah, man, that's wild. But anyways, though, let me know what y'all think down below in the excuse me, down below in the comment section below. I'll get back to you till then. Peace out.